The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to this morning's role play session with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. I'd like to start by welcoming our participants to our Thursday role-playing session. And, that doesn't just mean that we are only going to do role play. As you know, we can discuss anything to do with the lead conversion process, and I hope that you have lots of questions or success stories, anything that you want to share that involves lead conversion. This is definitely the forum to do that, but especially volunteering to do role playing is a really, really great idea. I want to draw your attention to the boot camp coming up at the end of the month on the 26th. That's a Friday, 26th of June in Huntington Beach. We've got a ton of you that have confirmed, but some of you haven't. As a matter of fact, I got an email. The person that emailed me will remain nameless, but their email said, "Hey, when is that boot camp in Huntington Beach?" And I almost choked my own self, because this is really, really important that you be there. It's on June the 26th. It's in Huntington Beach. It's at the Hyatt. And right on the coaching website, as you can see here under upcoming events, you can hit reserve your seat. There is no cost to it, but you absolutely have to be there and spend the day with us. It'll be a phenomenal day. And what kind of triggered it in my mind is that we are going to do a role play. So we're going to have panels, and we'll really work on that universal callback script, and it's great to do it in that nice, friendly environment there. So I'll look forward to seeing everybody who is going to be coming to Huntington Beach at the end of June, and we'll continue to remind you and make sure that you confirm with us between now and then. Now, tomorrow we're doing our marketing session. Craig will be on that webinar, so it's really important that you send us any ads that you'd like us to take a look at. Let me offer some suggestions here. When you send in your ads, don't just send the ad. Send some more information. Additional information would be helpful too. Like, let me give you an example. The landing page. If you're running an ad and the call to action in the ad is to visit a landing page, then it's important that we see the landing page. The success in terms of the leads generated from that marketing campaign have as much to do with the landing page as the ad itself. The purpose of the ad is to compel the prospect to take action. Take action means go to the website. The purpose of the website is to compel the prospect to ask for the information and give up their anonymity in order to get the information. So you can't have one without the other. What would also be helpful is to include some information about the performance of the ad. What did it cost? How many hits did it get? How many leads were generated? Anything like that is really helpful. Where it ran, stuff like that. So include that kind of information, and then tomorrow on the marketing session, we'll take a look at all of that. And of course, that's at the exact same time as this call here today. It's 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. on the East Coast. Okay, now what I want to do here, we're going to take an hour. And I'm going to take as many of your questions, role play volunteers, anything that you'd like to discuss that time permits. So Andrea, let's get started with whatever anybody wants to discuss to do with lead conversion.
Yes, sir. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and type your question or request a role play in the chat box at this time. Or if you have a working mic or you're on the telephone, you can click the hand icon you see at the top of your webinar control panel, and that'll let me know you'd like me to open your mic. We have more hands raised than questions in the chat box, so we'll go to hands raised first. Jim Jaltroy, your mic is now open.
Hello, Jim.
Jim? Okay.
Nope.
Nope, we cannot hear you, Jim. It might be best if you dial on the telephone if you'd like to role play today. We have Sandy Casella. Your telephone line is now open.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Excellent. What would you like to do today, Sandy?
I wanted to do a sign call role play.
Okay. All right, so I'm calling you off of your property at 123 Maple Street here. So I'm going to call you Ring Ring.
Hi, it's James there.
Well, hang on a second. First of all, if it's a sign call, am I calling you directly?
Oh, you're calling me, sorry. Okay.
Is your direct number on the sign, though? This is important. Like, what we have to consider is what happens most of the time. Is most of the time that they call and you don't answer the phone, or is it the majority of the time that they call off the sign and you answer the phone? What happens most of the time?
Actually, my office number is on the sign. So
Okay,
they wouldn't.
so when they call your office, do they send that call? Then are they able to connect that person with you if you answer your cell phone?
Yes.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
some of the time, what, they take a message and you call them back?
That's right.
Yeah, which probably
So
is.
I think most often what would happen is they would take a message and I would call them back.
Okay, so ring. Hello?
Hi, is James there, please?
Yeah, this is James.
Hi, James. It's Sandy Casella calling from Remax, and I'm just returning your call. You had called for some information about my property on 123 Main Street.
Yeah. No, I was just curious about, the usual stuff, square footage, bedrooms and that kind of thing. Wanted to know for that hardwood floors as well.
Okay, let me just pull up that listing if you can give me a second while I do that. Are you calling for yourself, James?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you have a real estate agent that you're working with?
No. I mean, I've got some realtors that are helping that have sent me, some information on some properties for sale and stuff like that, but nothing more serious than that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that house is listed at 559, and it does have hardwood floors. Are you planning on moving in the next 3 to 6 months?
We're thinking about it. Yeah. We're looking around really right now, and if we see something that's great, then who knows?
Okay. Are you currently renting, or do you own the home you live in?
No, we own the home we live in.
Okay.
It's just too small for us. We've been here for 4 years, and it's just too small.
Okay. Are you hoping to buy something first and then list your house, or would you be listing your house first and then
Oh yeah,
buying
no.
something?
We definitely want to find what we're looking for. I mean, we'd have to do both at the same time, but we're not doing anything until we find the right property. We're not going to sell our home. We know that our home's going to sell. These homes sell quickly in our little subdivision here. So, yeah. I mean, what will happen is we'll sell this home and then we'll get stuck having to settle for something that we don't really like. So, yeah, we're not rushing anything.
So would you like me to send you pictures and descriptions of all the homes in that neighborhood that would match what you're looking for, and it would include any bank foreclosures and company-owned properties, and also some properties that you won't find on the internet? It's a free service. It doesn't obligate you to anything. Would that be helpful?
Yeah. I mean, I like that neighborhood. It's not the only neighborhood that we're interested in, but I do like that neighborhood. That property, the Maple Street property, can I set up a time to take a look at it?
Oh, absolutely. I would need to get that appointment confirmed. We can do that, but would you also like to see some other properties possibly at the same time?
Well, it depends on what the properties are, I suppose.
Okay. Why don't we do this? Do you have maybe 15 or 20 minutes? We can meet at my office. We can go over what you're looking for. We can check and see what else is available, and then I can set up all the appointments for the same time.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether we're ready to go take a look at all kinds of properties right now. I mean, we're kind of picky, so. I don't want to waste your time or mine looking at a whole bunch of properties just for the sake of looking at them.
Okay, yeah, and that's I guess basically the reason that I'd like to meet with you, so I can get a really good idea of what you're looking for, and then I can set up just those properties that would interest you, and also set up so you can receive pictures and descriptions of all properties that come on the market. Chances are you're not going to buy something that's currently on the market. If it's been sitting there, it may not be what you're looking for. So we could set you up so you can receive these listings as soon as they become available. Do you think that would be helpful? It's a free service. It doesn't obligate you to anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, sure. That would be great.
Okay. So do you have some time at 6 o'clock, or would 7 o'clock be better?
I'm not sure if this evening's going to work. It might. But it also might not. So if you give me, say, 15 minutes, I can find out and I'll call you back.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we schedule it for, let's say, 6 o'clock tonight, and then if that doesn't work, just give me a call back and let me know, and we can reschedule.
Yeah, that's an easy way of doing it. Okay. Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay, and your wife will be available as well at the same time.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
All right,
Okay,
and
great.
you're located at such and such a. Okay, now watch this. Okay, first of all, it wouldn't have been a terrible idea to do the appointment at my home, right? If you
Right,
think
yeah,
about it,
yeah.
that wouldn't be a terrible idea. I mean, I was really waiting for you to say there's no cost, no obligation, and you finally did. You finally did at the end, which was really good because you got to remember, it doesn't matter how good it sounds. The problem is if my mind is focused on cost and obligation, that's what my focus is going to be on. Is like, oh, this lady she's gonna make me sign something. She thinks we're gonna pay her money. Like, it ain't happening. So all the words that are coming out of your mouth, they aren't sticking, because all I'm thinking about is that clearly you're going to charge me money or obligate me. And the reason is this: if you start off by saying, can we meet for 15 minutes? Once you say those words and then you explain why, it's backwards, right? It's got to be, remove the appointment at all and talk about what it is. Would you like me to set up, in addition to looking at this property, I can also set up showings on all of the properties that match exactly what you and your family are looking for. Some of them are great deals, bank foreclosures, company owned, pocket listings, anything, as long as it matches exactly what you want. I will make sure that only those properties are shown or seen. It's absolutely free. There's no obligation. Would that be something of interest to you? Now, you have said nothing about meeting with me. Then I say yes, because I can focus then only on the benefit, because you've said nothing about meeting with you. Then I say, yeah, that would be helpful. Then you say, well, look, I really do want to get a good understanding of what you're looking for. When have you got 15 minutes? So that we can sit down together, go over your criteria in some detail, so that I can be assured that we're only looking at the correct properties. Don't bring your wallet or checkbook. It's free, as I said. There's no obligation. Would this evening be a good time, sometime after 6 o'clock? What we have to understand is this, is that we have to differentiate the benefit from the appointment itself. If you talk about the benefit first, in other words, what it is you're going to do for them, you talk about that without ever saying anything about meeting with them. Just talk about what are you going to do? What do you suggest you do for them? Allow them to focus on that. When they focus on it, they get, hey, that would be really good. And it's free, and there's no obligation to buy anything. So they're able to focus on it and say, yeah, that would be good. Then you say, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to sit down together for 10 or 15 minutes to go over your criteria, right? Benefit first, then commit. It'll work better. That's all I'm saying, is it will work better. Now, if they own a home too, you can make it even easier by saying this: hey, look, if we're going to sit down together, if I can take a look at your home, although you probably have a good understanding of what it would likely sell for, there might be things that you can do to cause the property value to increase even further. Little things, tips, things to do, things to not do to further increase the value of your property. We could sit down and go over a net sheet so you'll know what you'll have in your pocket once all the various closing costs are incurred, some of which you may expect and some of which you may not expect. It's all free. There's no obligation. I'm flexible. What would be good, tonight or tomorrow? So now, but let's back up to the beginning. Flawless. I mean, that really was an excellent call. All the key questions. Here's what I really like. You didn't hold back on giving me the information about the property that I called on. And I hear a lot of realtors that do that. Not just our own students, but realtors in general, where they, because they feel like they need to be the gatekeeper of that property listing, that they're not giving the information about the property until an uncomfortably long period of time. In other words, if I keep you on the phone and I'm peppering you with questions before I give you any information about the property, there is a line where once you've gone beyond that line, I'm annoyed with you as the prospect. Why are you refusing to give me information about the property that I'm calling about? Right? You didn't do that. Let me pull up that information about that property. By the way, are you looking for yourself? Perfect question. Do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right? Perfect question to ask. Are you planning on doing something in the next 3 to 6 months? Then you said, let me tell you about this property at 123 Maple Street. Yes, it does have hardwood floors, et cetera, et cetera. That's exactly the way that you want to do this. You want to trade information. What you don't want to do is push the prospect away by by essentially refusing to give them the information that they were looking for, which is information about that property. Because here's the truth. When you give them the information about that property, whether or not it is or is not what they're looking for, whether they eliminate it or not, regardless, you're still going to make the identical offer to the prospect. Regardless, we're still going to say, well, hey, is it only this property that you would be interested in? Or if they weren't interested in it, well, then it's even easier. Would you be interested in other properties that might perfectly match what you're looking for, some of which are much more difficult to find on the internet or other places that you might be searching? Bank foreclosures, company-owned distress sales, etc. If those properties are available and they match what you and your family are looking for, would you like information or possibly to take a look at some of those properties? You said nothing about meeting with them. Benefit first. They say, yeah, of course I would. Then we can talk about how they're going to get that. That was an excellent job. You know, I guess the dynamics of that sign call changes when the prospect reaches you live in front of the property.
Yeah, and I don't have my number on the sign, so normally that's not what happens. It's just if I'm in the office, I would get them. But the one thing I am having a bit of a problem with, and I think you might have answered that question, is sometimes I've had a couple of people say, why are you asking me all these questions? So I don't know if it's me because
it's very important. It's very important that you trade information. This is, and I felt like your weight of questions to information was perfect. In other words, I think it's perfectly okay while you're pulling up the information to ask 2 questions. You know, are you looking for yourself? Do you have a realtor helping you, or do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right? You know, once you've asked a couple of questions, you're not burdening them with peppering them with questions. Then we say, okay, this property at 123 Maple Street you called on. Okay, let me tell you about this. It's 2,700 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom. It does have hardwood floors, and you know, the price is whatever. You know, so you're giving information and you're asking for information, but the balance of asking to getting is more equal.
Okay.
Right? So you would give that information and then say, and by the way, you're thinking about making a move in the next, you know, are you planning on buying something in the next few months? You know, do you own right now? Like, it's a trading of information. Whereas here's the difference, and this is what I was getting at, is what a lot of realtors do when it comes to someone calling on a property, whether that's off of a sign, maybe especially off a sign, or a property ad, is the realtor is the gatekeeper of the information about that property, so they don't give them the information. You go through the whole script without giving the information, and what you have now is a hostile prospect. It's like, yes, all you're doing is peppering me with questions. I'm the one calling you, asking you for information. Do you want to sell 123 Maple Street or not? I'm asking you about the property that you're supposed to be trying to sell, and you're not telling me about the property. All you're doing is asking me the questions. I'm the one calling you, asking you the questions here. Why won't you tell me about 123 Maple Street? So to do that is a big mistake, and it's completely unnecessary. And I really thought that you did a really good job of that. You know, so I don't doubt that you do well with those kinds of calls. You know, the only thing to look at is the system that you use to capture prospects that are calling off of the signs. Is it perfect? Or not? There is no perfect, but is it the best? The way that you're doing it right now, is it the best way? What if you used a 24-hour hotline and the prospects could request information on the hotline? Would you get 10 times more buyers calling and other sellers if they were able to get information more easily? Because honestly, the way it works right now, they call off the sign, it goes to a switchboard, they write down, you know, take a message or what have you. It's inefficient, and a lot of people, you know, if they just want the information, then they may not elect to go through that. Whereas if they can immediately get the information by calling into a 24-hour recorded hotline, many more would do that. Now, you're not going to give them all the information on the hotline. They're going to leave the same message that they would leave with the receptionist. They're going to leave that message on the recording.
Okay, so would that be, okay, I'm having new signs made up. I'm in the process of doing that. So I'm doing the open house every day sign. I'll be adding to that, and then so I should add a hotline to it as well. So should I have a hotline number on there instead of my office number?
No, you can have
Or
both.
that'll be a rider?
You can have both, but it's going to be a rider. Yeah, it'll be a rider probably underneath, and it'll say 24-hour recorded info, and you'll just have an ID number for that.
Okay.
You know, text message is also an option as well, which is a good one.
Right.
You know, it's probably 6 of one, half dozen the other. Whether you use the hotline or the text to get information, it's the same result. The difference is you're capturing, when they leave their message, you're capturing a higher quality of prospect. A text, it's kind of stealth. In other words, they're texting and you're getting their phone number because they've texted you. So you have their phone number, but you don't know their name, right? You just know their text. So couldn't you call them back? Yeah, you can call them back. Say, hey, I'm calling you. I don't know who you are, but I'm calling you. Now, here's the difference. Although when you text, you're going to get 100% of the people that text you. You'll have a phone number for 100% of them because they texted from their cell phone. On the hotline, there will be some prospects that elect not to leave a message. But that's how it's designed. It is supposed to be a filter. It's supposed to filter out less desirable prospects to leave you with the best ones. So if 10 prospects call the hotline and 7 of them leave a message requesting information about that property, those 7 are the best ones. They're the ones that we want to follow up with. We have their name because they left it on the message. I'm James McDonald. You know, here's my email address, you have all their information, and now you're able to follow up with a higher quality of prospect. And you're able to say to them, oh, hey, James, I got your request for information on 123 Maple Street, and I did put together some information about that property, and I emailed it to you. I hope that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
And now it's just a standard, so your follow-up is very, very good on it. What I would focus on is the marketing side of it. How efficient is it at capturing prospects? Is it best possible? You know, because really what you're doing is the same thing that we did 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 years ago. Phone number on the sign.
Right, yeah. I'll work on that with my coach and get
those
other things on there as well. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks, bye.
Our next guest with her hand raised, Jim Daltroy. Your telephone line is now open.
Hello.
Hello, Jim. How are you today?
Good, James. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. What would you like to do today?
I'd like to do a role play on a internet response from the Success website for a list of distress sales.
Okay, perfect. All right, so ring. Hello?
Hello, is James McDonald there, please?
Yeah, this is James.
Oh, hi, James. It's Jim Deltroy calling you from Remax Hallmark. And the reason for my call is I just wanted to let you know that I received a request for a list of distress sales, and you're going to get that today by 5 o'clock. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. James, just wondering if you're planning a move in the next 3 to 6 months.
Well, maybe if we find the right property.
Okay. And if you were to move, where would you move? Would you stay local or would you move out of the area?
Oh, no, we stay local. Yeah. No, my wife and I both work in the area, so we'd be staying put.
Okay. And ideally, in a perfect world, when would you like that move to occur?
Ideally. Well, ideally, it would be great to occur, you know, in the next month or so, but realistically, it'll probably be more like 3 to 6 months, as you say.
Okay. Perfect. And do you currently rent or own your own home?
No, we rent.
Okay. And are you do you have a realtor to help you? Oh, sorry, I blew that line.
That's okay. What's the difference? You got to ask me the question, so this is okay.
Okay. Do you have a realtor to help you with the move when the time is right?
Not really. We've got some realtors that we've called and gotten some information from, but no, we're not at that stage yet where we haven't hired a realtor or anything like that. We're just kind of looking. We're just looking around right now.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to send you today, James, is a snapshot. It's all the listings that match the criteria on that form you filled out online that are on the market right now. But going forward, would you be interested in receiving all the listings that match your criteria on a daily basis?
Yeah. I go online. I've got a couple different websites that I have bookmarked, and so pretty much every day I go on there and it notifies me if there's a new listing, on Trulia and some of these other ones that I found. So you know, I don't know if this is any different or you know, any more beneficial than that. Although I do appreciate the offer.
Well, this list would include all distress sales, foreclosures, fixer-uppers, all the listings from all the other real estate companies, as well as listings that don't show up on public websites, listings that may be privately exclusively listed or what's called pocket listed, and you'd have access to all that information. It's going to put you in a position where you can beat out all the other buyers to the hot new listings.
Right.
And it's absolutely free. There's no cost or obligation involved to take a look at that. You got 20 minutes or so that we could get together and put together that list for you.
Yeah, that sounds helpful. That sounds helpful. I don't want to. I don't want to give you the impression that we're going to buy something tomorrow. As I said, it's probably going to be 3 to 6 months. So, you know, I don't know if this is a little premature to do this now. Maybe it'd be better to do it, you know, in a couple of months or something.
Actually, it's the perfect time to do it now, James, because instead of getting deluged with hundreds and hundreds of listings, which may or may not match your home buying criteria, when we get together, we're actually going to sit in front of a computer screen and enter your search. You're going to see the houses that come up, and we can thin it down to what you like. And that way, instead of losing potentially the perfect home for you in hundreds of emails, you're going to get to see just the homes that match your home buying criteria. And again, there's no cost or obligation. You don't have to bring a checkbook with you or anything. So have you got 20 minutes where we can get together this week?
Yeah. Yeah, we can do it probably anytime after, say, 6:30.
Okay, so why don't we make it for 6:30? Is tonight or tomorrow better for you?
Probably tonight would be fine. Yeah, tomorrow's Friday, so yeah, tonight.
Okay, let's make it 6:30 tonight. I'll email you the instructions on how to get here, and I'll look forward to seeing you then.
Perfect. Okay, here's something that I tried to make obvious here, is that I want everyone to understand when it is appropriate to make this offer and when it's appropriate for the prospect to start to receive these properties. I would try to make it really clear that I'm not buying something for probably, you know, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or as much as 6 months down the road. So my thought is maybe this offer that Jim is making is premature, right? Maybe it's a little too soon for me. What I want everybody to understand is that what we know about the prospect is that they are currently looking. And the reason we know they're looking is twofold. The first reason we know they're looking is because I told Jim I was looking. I said, I go onto websites pretty much every day, and they notify me of properties, and I look at the properties that are for sale. I told him I'm actively looking every day. It doesn't mean I'm buying something, but every day I'm looking. I'm spending my time looking. So here's the question. Since you're looking, do you have a better way for them to look than what they're currently doing? Because like it or not, they are looking right now every day. They're looking for properties for sale. Whether or not they're going to buy one today, it's a separate issue, but they are looking. We have a better way for them to look than whatever it is that they're currently doing. So that's number one. Number two, this is what we also know about them. They responded to your ad. And the only possible way they could have responded to your ad is they had to have seen it. And the only way they could possibly have seen your ad is they had to have been looking for real estate information. So we know that they're actively looking. Even if that means you're not buying something for 6 months, we know they're looking. So it's almost like if Jim were to push back and he was the prospect, I would say, hey, Jim, there's something I know about you going through this process right now, and that is that you are actively looking around at properties that are available in the marketplace. Maybe not to buy something today, but you are spending your time looking. But rather than looking at the properties that have been overlooked by the other realtor or by the other buyers and not seeing some of the best deals because they're not available online where you're looking, if I emailed you every day all of the properties as they came on the market, particularly the must-sell properties, the distress sales, the bank foreclosures, the properties that you might not be seeing where you're looking right now, absolutely free, no obligation, sitting in your email inbox as they come on the market, would that be a better way for you to look for the properties that are of interest to you? That's a no-brainer. Prospect says yes. Yes, that would be better. So we have to understand that the benefit of bringing in buyers early is that a buyer doesn't have to be buying right now for it to be appropriate to book the appointment to provide them with these properties immediately. We could even say to the prospect, hey Jim, I get that you're probably not buying something for the next 3, even maybe as long as 6 months or more. That's perfectly okay. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have access to all of the best deals every day. Access doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to buy anything, but you need to have access to these properties. And right now, doing what you're doing, you're not getting that access. Right? So this is perfectly okay to have this conversation if the prospect pushes back or doesn't quite understand the benefit of the offer that you're making. And I want to make sure that everybody that's making these calls, everyone on the webinar here today that's actually making these phone calls, it has to be so clear in your mind that there is no better way for somebody to find properties than what you're offering. There's nothing that anyone could say. There's no website that's better than what you're offering. There's no other realtor that's better than what you're offering. There's nothing that I can do in an effort to find property that's better than what you're proposing. So if the prospect doesn't understand that, it means we haven't done a good enough job of explaining that to them. But that was very good. That was very good, Jim. I just wanted to give you some food for thought for when you're making these calls.
One of the things I observed, James, in your response is that when I used the word ideally, you said ideally in a month. So that, and then went on to say 3 to 6 months. But that tells me if we find the right house for you, you're ready to buy now.
Right, but I get that. But what I'm trying to point out is this: even if I say, yeah, but I probably won't buy anything for 6 months. Like realistically, it's probably going to be 6 months. It's still perfectly okay to say, look, you're spending your time looking. Like I know you are because you told me. You're going on websites every day. You found my ad, so obviously you're looking for real estate. All I'm saying is this: what you're doing right now, looking for properties, you're missing out on some of the best properties that are available. And you're also finding out about a lot of these properties weeks after they've been available for sale. What I'm proposing is, what if I emailed you the properties the second they hit the market and I included the hard to find deals? Hey, I'm not suggesting you have to buy any of them. Not at all. Never obligated to buy anything. I'm just saying, hey, isn't it fair that you know about these properties when they're available? Because right now, the way you're doing it, you're not finding out about them. And it is free. There's no obligation. Would that be something of interest to you? Now you've painted a picture where the prospect is going to say, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yep.
And getting the prospect early, getting them in early is paramount, because now when they're getting more and more motivated and they're looking around at properties, calling off signs, going to open houses, like another realtor is going to scoop them up unless you have a contract with them. So
right.
Getting them in early is exactly what you want to do. That was good. Really, really good. Thank you thanks for volunteering. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few questions, so I wanted to get to a couple of those before we moved on to more role playing. This one's from Sergio. He says, my leads come from the Success website. My question is, I get most of my leads over the weekend. Should I call people to schedule an appointment even if it's over the weekend?
Yeah, sure. The whole benefit of this marketing system, allowing the prospects to obtain the information through your website, is that what it means is this. The prospect can get the information at their convenience. They can request the information. They can get the information at their convenience. But what it also means is that you can follow up with the prospect at your convenience. Now, sometimes it is convenient for you to follow up with the prospect immediately. Sometimes, but not all the time. But I'll tell you what, if it is convenient for you to follow up with the prospect right away, you'll probably find that when you get that prospect on the phone, it's really easy to have a conversation with them about real estate, because their brain is thinking about real estate at that moment. However, you don't have to. If you're busy, or you're doing things with your family or what have you, it is perfectly acceptable to call that prospect back on Monday. Call them back on Monday morning. Call them back at your convenience. What we're not saying is that you hold back on sending them the information that they were looking for, though. That's really something that we want to make sure prospects receive is if a prospect requested information, the more that we can automate the process of them getting the information that they're looking for, the better. Because then on Monday, you can call them back and say, oh, hey, hi, Jane. I got your request over the weekend for the area home sales report from my website. And I just wanted to give you a quick courtesy call, let you know I did get your request on Sunday and sent that information. I hope that's okay. Yeah, I did. I got that. Thank you. By the way, you're thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months. I can have that conversation on Monday morning. That's fine because they were able to request and get the information at their convenience. So, and that's the whole benefit is what Craig recognized early on in his real estate career was that other successful entrepreneurs, business owners in other industries, they have a business that makes their life better and doesn't run their life. And the whole benefit of introducing, technology and effective marketing is that it means that if the prospect can get the information on their terms and it doesn't have to involve us, you'll have a better life. So, I hope in a roundabout way that answers your question. But hey, here's the key. When it's convenient to you, you follow up with the prospect. Or better, as soon as it's convenient to you, you follow up with the prospect. As soon as it's convenient to you. But if it's not convenient to you, it's perfectly okay to wait until it is, as opposed to getting up from the dinner table or leaving your kid's birthday party because you've got to make follow-up calls. It's purposely designed to not work that way. Okay, great question. Who's next?
We have a few of our members asking about more information on the open house every day option. A lot of them have never heard of that before and they want to know how it works.
It's a great question. Okay, so here's what you want to do. This is a great trick. On your for sale signs, what if you had a sign rider that said open daily, call for times? Now watch this. So I call and I say, what time is that property available? And you say, well, I have 2 o'clock this afternoon, I have 3 o'clock this afternoon, I have 6 o'clock this evening, 7 o'clock, or 8 o'clock. What would you prefer? In other words, is the property open? Would you make the property available if a prospect called? It doesn't say, the sign writer doesn't say, we are doing an open house today, call for the time of the open house. Like, this is what we got to understand is that what we're saying is that the property is available to be viewed. Is it? Yes or no? Sure it is. So, and when? Every day. So if you call in and say, this property at 123 Maple Street, it says that it's open every day. What time today is it available? Okay, well, first of all, it can be open at your convenience. Are you planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? Do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right? Are you looking for yourself? It's designed, like good marketing, to get a prospect to be compelled to respond. Right? That's all it is, designed to compel a prospect. So what does the sign writer say? Open daily, call for times. It's a really, really smart idea. It's the same as a for sale sign. I mean, that is the point of a for sale sign, to look at the property. Okay, and by the way, what a great listing tool, right? You're going to explain to the seller, hey, look, this is the sign writer that I use, but before you freak out thinking that I'm going to be kicking you out of your house every hour on the hour, it doesn't work that way. I'm going to, of course, qualify the buyers that call. And I'm only going to set up a showing, first of all, to let you know, but more importantly, I'm only showing your property to those buyers that are qualified and motivated to purchase your property. So anyway, it's a great listing tool, and again, anything you're doing that the other realtors aren't is always a good thing, USP. All right, next, Andrea.
Well, a little testimonial from Bill Watson. He says, the everyday open house sign is our biggest lead generator at our listings.
Well, there you go. That is a ringing endorsement of the open everyday call for times. Bill Watson knows his stuff.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
We have a question from Maria. How do we make sure our appointments actually show up. A lot of people say and sound very promising and then don't show up for the appointment.
All right. First of all, logistically, you have to set the appointment up as close to the time that you're talking to them as possible. The further away the appointment, the less likely it is to happen. So that's number one, which is why when you're setting the appointment, you don't say, when are you available for a 15-minute appointment? Because I'll tell you what they're going to say. They're going to say next Thursday. Next Thursday, it ain't happening, because that's a week from today. It ain't happening. You can send them emails. You can do whatever you want. They'll have long forgotten about you and your appointment by next Thursday, or they'll have forgotten at least the benefit to them of why they would meet with a real estate salesperson. However, if you say, what would you prefer, days, evenings, this weekend? And they say, well, evenings would be fine. And you say, what's better, this evening or tomorrow evening? You book that appointment this evening or tomorrow evening, the odds of the appointment happening are very, very high, very good. Okay, so that's number one. And the second thing is this. If the prospect truly understands the benefit of the appointment, and not only do they understand why they're meeting with you, what they're going to get as a result of meeting with you, but if they truly understand that there is absolutely no cost or obligation for doing so, they will want the information and they will show up to get it. But here's the problem. If they hang up the phone with you and two things happen, or one of two things happen, either number one, they think, now why am I meeting with this realtor again? Like, why? I know they wanted me to meet with them, but why? Why again? They're not showing up. They're going to cancel. They're just going to know. If they don't understand the benefit of meeting with a salesperson, we're not in the habit of meeting with salespeople. You know what we're in the habit of doing with salespeople? Avoiding them. So to meet with a salesperson, if we don't really understand why, ain't something we're going to do. So that's our job, to make sure that we've really painted this picture clearly, articulately, slowly, so the prospect gets it. And if they do understand the benefit, but they fear cost or obligation, that is every bit as much a reason why they aren't going to show up as well. So you can't have one without the other. We have to make sure the prospect understands the benefit, and we also have to make sure that the prospect understands the removal of risk, which is, of course, cost and obligation.
Okay, our next hand raise comes from Romo Sanchez. Your mic is now open. Unmute on your end. Just hit the red mic button. Okay, we'll go on to Evangeline Lynn. Your telephone line is now open.
Hi, this is Eva's ISA, Joe.
Hey, Joe, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. How's it been going with the follow-up calls?
Pretty good. I wanted to do a bold lead.
Okay. All right. So, and what did I request? An evaluation or an area home sales report?
Yeah, home valuation.
Home valuation. Okay. So, ring. Hello.
Hi, Jim.
Yeah, this is James. Who's this?
Hi, James. This is Joe calling with Remax. Just calling because I received your home valuation request. So I wanted to let you know I'm getting that prepared now, and I'll have it out to you shortly. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
It's my pleasure. So, James, are you planning to make a move in the next 3 to 6 months?
It's possible. Yeah, we're thinking about it a little bit. I'm sorry, I just caught me a little off guard. I wasn't expecting a realtor to call.
Oh, it's no problem. It's a free service that we offer, and it's a great time to check in on how your home's doing given how the market is performing. So if you were to move down the line, would you be staying in the area or moving away?
No, we're planning on staying in the area. We're just looking for something a little bigger. That's all.
Oh, great. And James, would you prefer to sell your current home first, or do you want to buy your next home first?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess our dilemma is it depends on what we can get for our property. It's a little unusual. Well, not unusual, but it's difficult to pin down, you know, what our home would sell for. So that would obviously dictate what we could afford, and so that's kind of where we're at right now.
I see. Makes sense why you'd be requesting for the valuation report. James, when do you think it might be that you will make your move?
Well, sometime this year.
Okay. Have you been out to any open houses yet?
No, we haven't done anything like that. But I mean, I look online once in a while and take a look at what's out. We're really early in the process here. I mean, it's something that we've talked about for a long, long time, but haven't really taken much in the way of action other than looking online and stuff like that. So we're pretty early in the process. And again, if the dollars don't add up, it just doesn't make sense to do it. Then we probably wouldn't, or at least we'd hold it off.
Okay, I hear you. Do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, James, I can see it's really important to you to find out the really precise value on your home. The report that I'm going to send you, it's going to give you a rough estimate based on recent area home sales. But tell me, would it be more helpful if we came by and took a quick look? That way we could provide a much more precise assessment of its value, and while we're there, we could point out some easy tips of things that you could do to prepare your home. That way you'll get top dollar when you do put it on the market. And you mentioned the dollars and cents making out, so we could also go through a net sheet with you. That way you'll have a good sense of what will be left at the end of the day. There's no cost and no obligation whatsoever. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, no, that would be really helpful.
Okay, great. Well, when would be a good time for us to stop by your home? What's best for you, days, evenings, or weekends?
Probably the weekend would be good. There are a few projects that I'm just kind of finishing up that maybe over the next 2 weeks, 3 at the outside, I'll be finished, and maybe it'd be better to do it then.
Well, James, if I may suggest, it might be better for us to come by before you finish up those projects, just so we could point out what is and is not going to really impact the sales price of your home. I have an opening this Saturday, if that works for you.
Yes, Saturday's fine.
Okay, is the morning or the afternoon better?
Anything after, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon will be around.
Okay, and James, are you the only decision maker, or do you have a spouse that's going to be participating in this process?
Oh, I wish. No. My wife and I will both be here.
Okay, great. So let's pencil you in for this Saturday at 2 p.m. at your house on 123 Main Street, and we'll definitely look forward to coming by and meeting with you.
Okay. Now here's the great. First of all, really, really good. That was excellent, and I don't. Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, this is a different forum, right? That you're using this script. It's a different forum, so you can feel differently doing it than when you're calling a prospect. You're assuming that there aren't other people listening to you when you're doing that, right? So I get that. But putting that aside, excellent. I mean, absolutely excellent. The content of our conversation was really, really good. So I don't doubt that you do really well with these follow-up calls. This is what I want to focus on is it's hard with the sellers to determine the appropriateness of the appointment. In other words, this is what I want you to consider. Okay, you're not the one that's going to go on this appointment, right?
Right.
Okay, so what are you hoping is going to happen when the outside agent or whoever it is goes out on this appointment on Saturday? What are you expecting is going to happen when they go out on that appointment? Do you think that they're going to list my home for sale?
That's my hope.
It is your hope, but based on what I told you and where I am in the process, does it sound likely that I'm going to do that?
It's probably less likely. You said you're pretty early in the process.
Right. Here's the thing, though, is that what a good outside sales agent, and if you can put in good, suitable notes so that they're prepared for this appointment, here's what might be more likely to happen. It may not be suitable to get them signed to a listing now. It might be, but it might not be. But one thing is for sure, they're not leaving the area. So a good outside agent would be able to show them the buyer system and get them signed to a buyer contract. And this is what you'll find. Once a prospect is signed as a client to a contract, it really doesn't matter whether that's a buyer contract or a listing contract. They are now your client. So when it does become appropriate for them to list their home for sale, they have an agent that they're already working with. So this is where the outside agent has to, but they have to know about their situation. They have to be aware. This is where they're at right now. Very early. See, this is what Craig used to reprimand me for all the time, is that when you get really good at this, I can book an appointment with anyone, right? Like, you can make anything sound really good, and I can book an appointment with you regardless of your timing. So that's all great that you've booked these appointments, but it is somebody else that has to go on the appointment. And when that somebody else goes on that appointment on a Saturday afternoon and they realize these people aren't doing anything for months, what starts to happen is they start to resent these appointments that you're sending them out on. Just because you can doesn't always mean you should. That's what I'm saying to you. So you got to be really, really careful. And maybe what you want to do is make sure that whoever the outside salesperson is has enough notes in the system that they know that what they might have to do on this appointment is not give the listing presentation necessarily, but be able to switch gears and focus on the buy side and get them signed to a 6-month or 12-month buyer contract and start to get them properties sent to them that they might be interested in looking at while they're eventually preparing their home for sale. If the outside sales agent has information, then there are no surprises. They know that they're showing up for this appointment knowing what the deal is here, as opposed to showing up to the appointment thinking, well, these people are ready to list, right? I mean, that's why we have an appointment is, they've already bought firm, they're moving, we need to list their home tonight. Then they're going to get there, find out, oh, they're pretty early in the process. So I don't know to what extent that's happening to you right now, but it certainly will. And I also bear this in mind. This is a bold lead. The prospect that responded to a bold lead wasn't looking for real estate information. You know what they were doing? They were scrolling through freaking Facebook, right? Like, is that how they found the ad on Facebook?
Yes.
All right, so we got to remember that as well. There's a difference between a prospect that saw your ad because they were actively looking for real estate information. They visited a real estate website. They were looking in a real estate publication of some kind. That prospect on their own volition was actively searching for real estate information and found what you were offering. But this prospect from Bold Leads wasn't doing any of those things. They were simply scrolling through the news feed on Facebook, and they were compelled by the message. So we just make sure that you manage your expectations when you're booking these appointments. Otherwise, you'll get other people upset with you because you're so good at this script that you are able to book appointments with anyone you want to, and sometimes those that you shouldn't. So I hope that makes sense. But here's the long and short of this. That was an excellent job. I mean, really an excellent job, and you're very, very good at this. So I don't doubt that you can set appointments pretty darn easily.
Thank you for the feedback.
You're welcome. Okay, Andrea, let's take a few more chat questions here before we sign off for this morning.
Yes, our next question is from Jatin. He says, many times appointments made with the buyers and sellers do not materialize the real converting into contract or business, even though prior presentation has been made. How do I follow up with those clients?
So I'm confused here by this question. So they booked an appointment, but they didn't show up? Or
it sounds to me like they made the appointment, they showed up, they gave the presentation, but they didn't agree to sign. And I guess they just said goodbye, have a nice day.
You've got to fix what's broken then. Okay, here's what's happening. Either, number one, you booked an appointment with somebody that you shouldn't have. You're offering something to someone that isn't motivated. Right? Whereupon, yeah, they would say no. It's like if somebody sat me down and said, look, I've got this great service that offers, free list of the best toasters on the market. It's like, yeah, I'm not interested. You're offering me something that might be excellent, but it's not of interest to me. So that's one thing, but I'll tell you what's more likely. What is more likely is that you just need to work on your presentation. That's all. Why don't you use a cancellation guarantee? Until you get really good at the presentation, use a cancellation guarantee. And you give it to them, signed. It says you cannot make a mistake. That's the purpose of the cancellation guarantee. You cannot make a mistake. What it says is that if at any time for any reason you don't feel that I'm doing a great job, or you don't feel comfortable, or whatever the reason, you don't need to give a reason. You're not locked into making a mistake. My cancellation allows you to cancel at any time without penalty. And I want you to have it because I'm going to do an incredible job for you. And you're going to be really grateful of all of the information and service that I'm providing to you, absolutely free of charge. That's why I offer this cancellation guarantee. It's also why not every other realtor does. Use that cancellation guarantee properly, and what it means is, you can offer that and work on making your presentation better, to the point where once your presentation is good enough, you won't have to use the cancellation guarantee. But here's the deal. If buyers don't take you up on the guarantee or on the cancellation guarantee, then why not offer it? I hope you understand what I mean by that. In other words, if you do a great job and no one ever cancels, then why not offer the cancellation guarantee as a standard normal thing that you just do? So that's a great question. Okay, Andrea, let's take one final question for this morning and then we'll sign off.
Okay, and it looks like back referencing when you said Facebook, a lot of people are looking and aren't really that interested in buying. When that happens and our members are going through the script, at what point do they refer to the Market Watch script instead of the offer?
Well, and that's exactly right, is that when you determine, like based on that conversation, that role play that we just did, I would have to say that in that circumstance, what I would have tried to pin down is a timing. Like, how about this? Sometimes the gateway to finding out the seller motivation and timing is by probing about the buy side. Now, one of the questions, have you been to open houses? I said no, haven't even looked. Well, I haven't even looked to that extent yet. So I'm trying to give the impression that this is a new thing and we're very, very early in the process. So you might want to consider that. Really drilling down and finding out, what is my timing? When am I going to be doing this? When are you going to start looking at properties in earnest? If the perfect property came available, would you buy it? No, because we would need to sell our home. When do you see your home being sold? If you're to do this, if you're to go ahead and do this, when would you like to see your property on the market? When would you like to see it sold? If the perfect buyer came along and offered you what you believe to be fair market value for your property, if they came along today, would you consider selling it to them? Not an outrageous, I'm not saying they'd give you, what your home isn't worth. I'm saying fair market value for your property. Would you consider selling it? What we're trying to drill down on is finding out, okay, so what is the real timing here? And if it's very clear that this is early and that, we're probably talking about a few months before anything really happens with this prospect, what if we were able to say, instead of pushing them and pressuring them into doing something that only will cause them to feel negatively, what if we were able to pull back instead and be able to suggest that, why don't we send you more and better information? I've got a great newsletter. It's full of great market statistics, really helpful tips, while you're considering this move, and, information about your own home, what home values are doing from week to week in the marketplace. You'll find that really helpful. It's free. I put it together every single month. I'd be more than happy to send you that information as well as the area home sales report. It's free. There's no obligation. Would you be interested? They'll say yes. Then we can say, and would it be okay if I followed up with you, maybe gave you a call when you're a little closer to maybe putting your home on the market or looking around at properties? Would it be okay if I were to call you then? Of course. When do you think that would be? Well, why don't you call us at the end of July? That's a great idea. I will. I'll look forward to speaking to you then. Guess what? You're going to call them beginning of July. Right? So that's a pretty normal process. We just don't want to be too late. So this is why we ask these probing questions. But that was a good one. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. My email address, james@craigproctor.com. Don't hesitate to reach out with anything that you have. And don't forget, tomorrow, Craig is going to be doing our marketing session tomorrow, so any ads that you'd like us to take a look at, make sure you do. Don't forget the boot camp, June the 26th. That's coming up in 1, 2, 3 Fridays from tomorrow. We can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your help. Have an awesome day.